Yo guys, welcome back to LeadFoot TV. So today I am doing 5 underrated cars to come out of Japan. All these cars on this list I don't think get enough love, and at the moment most of them are absolute bargains. If you pick one up now, I think you'll only make money on most of them. So yeah, stay tuned for the 5 most underrated cars to come out of Japan. So, 5 underrated cars to come out of Japan. Yeah, like I mentioned, all these cars I just think are great cars. They don't get enough love. Most of them don't get enough love just because they're overshadowed by the flagship model of the brand. Bar one of them is the flagship model of the brand and just didn't ever get anywhere. Yeah, let's start off with number 5. So number 5 is the Honda Prelude. The Honda Prelude, in my eyes, is an absolutely awesome car. I've owned several of them. So the Honda Prelude came with a 2.2 VTEC engine in it. They ranged from 180 to 200 horsepower depending on whereabouts in the world you are. At the moment, you can pick them up for like in the UK for about £1,500 plus, and to be honest, they were just really overshadowed by the Civic VTIs or SIRs depending where you are, and the Integra Type R. In my eyes, there isn't a lot of difference between a Honda Prelude and an Integra Type R, like figures wise. Obviously the Integra Type R is a lot more track focused, but the Honda Prelude was a bit more of a Grand Tourer. But they did do a lightweight version of the 4th generation Honda Prelude that came from Japan. Had similar power. That's actually the model that I used to own, and I had it as a track car, and it was really capable. Obviously with the H22 VTEC engine that comes in it, you've got plenty of tuning potential, actually more than you get with the B18 in the Integra. Obviously at the moment, Integras in the UK are about 8 grand, and a Honda Prelude starts at like 1.5 grand. So like the difference is absolutely crazy. If you're wanting a cheap alternative to a Honda Integra or a Civic Type R, the Honda Prelude is definitely the one to go for, and it's so overshadowed. It's a great car. They handle really well once you start taking some weight out of them, and yeah, just an all-around awesome car. So number 5 on my list is the Honda Prelude, VTI or SI depending on where you are in the world. So number 4 on my list is the Subaru Legacy B4 RSK. It came with a 2-litre twin turbo engine, flat 4 boxer engine. They had 280 horsepower out of the box. You can pick them up in the UK at the moment for like 2 grand plus, depending on what condition you get. You're probably looking at like more 3 to 4 if you're wanting an absolutely mint one. Obviously they were just so overshadowed by the Subaru Impreza at the time because of all the success that the Impreza was seeing during the WRC days, and the Legacy is a really good alternative option if you don't want to fork out the premium for an Impreza. And obviously it's not as great looking as the Impreza. It's a little more understated, but if you're wanting a slightly more understated car, then the Legacy is a really good option. They're a bit of a sleeper. They don't look like they're as fast as they are. They've got plenty of tuning potential because obviously they're using the same engine layout as the Subaru Impreza, but with 2 turbos. Really good alternative. 4-wheel drive. Yeah, just an all-around great car. So undervalued, I think. So yeah, number 4 on my list is the Subaru Legacy B4 RSK. So that brings us to number 3 on the list. Number 3 is a little bit of an underdog. It is the Mitsubishi 3000 GT, or the GTO, depending on whereabouts you are in the world. Obviously, there is another manufacturer that made a GTO, so it is not called the GTO in certain countries because that car was also on the market. Not really sure why they didn't just call it 3000 GT everywhere, but yeah, so it's called the 3000 GT or GTO, and actually in America they rebadged it as a Dodge Stealth as well, which is a slightly more awkward looking version of it. Yeah, they came with a 3-litre V6 twin turbo, and these things were absolutely loaded with tech. So yeah, 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steer, electronic adjusting suspension. They had electronic valves in the exhaust for when you put it in sports mode, it would put it into a more free-flowing exhaust. They had active aero, so the spoiler and the lip would go up and down depending on the speed you were going, which is absolutely insane in my for a car at that age. When they originally came out, they were obviously under the gentleman's agreement, so they were meant to be 275 horsepower. A lot of them weren't. Some of them ranged all the way up to 320 horsepower, depending on which ones you got. And yeah, you can pick these up in the UK at the moment for like £5 plus for a 6-speed manual one, which is absolutely crazy when you compare it to its competitors at the time. It was competing with the Nissan Skyline GTR and the Toyota Supra. You can't pick those things up for like 30 grand, so picking one of these up for £5 is an absolute bargain. Yeah, obviously I don't think that these things did as well because they were available all over the world. I don't think rebadging it as a Dodge Stealth probably helped, and whereas the Supra and the Nissan Skyline were slightly less available. Maybe not the Supra, but definitely the Skyline. But yeah, you could pick the GTO up anywhere, almost anywhere in the world. So I think that played a big part in it not becoming quite as iconic as the others, but definitely a really good alternative if you want in a fast Japanese sports car from the 90s. So yeah, that's my number 3 choice. Definitely a really cool choice. Bargain at the moment. If you pick one up now, I think you're only going to make money on it. So number 2 on the list is the Nissan Pulsar, or Sunny GTIR, depending on where you are in the world. In the UK, they were badged as a Sunny GTIR. Over in Japan, they were a Pulsar. Personal little favourite of mine. I absolutely love these things. So they came with a 2-litre turbo engine in them, which is an SR20 DET.
Couple Nissan SR20 motors will pull up premium 1 week before race wars, huh?
Yeah, probably.
If you're not familiar with the SR20 DET, it is the same engine that comes in a lot of the 180SXs and the S15 Silvia. They're 227 horsepower out of the box, loads of tuning potential. You can push these things like up to 400 horsepower. If you're not aware what a Nissan Sunny is, it is so light. These things are absolutely ridiculous. Not really even sure how they made it into production. They're 4-wheel drive, tons and tons of potential in these things. Little 4-wheel drive hatchback. I don't think that these things have ever been rivaled. Nothing's been as mad as this thing, apart from maybe Toyota are bringing out the Yaris GR4 this year, which I think is probably the closest thing that's ever come to this Pulsar. Yeah, just an absolutely mad car. Really iconic bonnet vent on them if you've never seen them before. The idea and the looks behind it, it looks like a concept car that's accidentally gone into production. These things held their value really well. At one point, like 5 years ago in the UK, you could pick these things up for absolutely nothing, like £1.5, £2. At the moment, the current market, you're looking at about £8 plus to pick up a good running one, but still an absolutely iconic car, and I don't think that they've peaked in their value at the moment. I think even if you bought one now, you could see some money coming your way.
I gotta do it, man.
So yeah, that's my number 2, the Nissan Pulsar Sunny GTIR. So that brings me to number 1 on the list. The king of underrated cars in Japan is, for me, the Z32 300ZX.
Really? Mm-hmm. You know what you wanted.
I really don't think this car gets the credit it deserves. You're not familiar with the 300ZX, it came with a 3-litre V6 twin-turbo engine. They were 300 horsepower. You're probably wondering why they didn't oblige to the gentleman's agreement. It was because this car was actually the car responsible for the gentleman's agreement. Nissan launched the 300ZX with 300 horsepower, hence the name 300. So it was a 3-litre V6 with 300 horsepower. It just caused absolute chaos in Japan, and the Japanese government decided to bring in a law, well, not a law, but an agreement between the motor manufacturers to limit the cars to 275 horsepower. So some of the later models claimed to have 275 horsepower, but Nissan never actually did anything to the engines, and if you dyno a lot of them, most of them all come out about 300 horsepower. They're rear-wheel drive, they had 4-wheel steering as well, and you can pick these up in the UK. If you want a manual one, you're looking at like £5 plus. If you want an automatic one, you can pick them up a little bit cheaper. It's not very difficult to do a manual conversion on the automatic ones if you want to pick up a cheaper one and then do it that way. Yeah, these cars, they just don't get the respect they deserve. I think they're just so overshadowed by the Skyline. But yeah, like I say, it's the car that was responsible for the gentleman's agreement and actually brought in a law in Japan where they allowed people to race on the highways so that they could develop technology for modifying cars.
Nice.
Which is absolutely mad, and I think it's an incredible looking car. It's one of my favourite looking cars to come out of Japan in standard format. I think it looks incredible. Yeah, just so underrated. It doesn't get the respect it deserves. VG30D is actually a really strong engine. Slightly awkward to work on because it's so big and takes up a lot of the engine bay. But yeah, just so underrated. If you're not familiar with Donut Media,
and more power, baby.
Donut Media did a really cool podcast on Midnight Club racing team in Japan, and they go into a lot of detail of why the 300ZX is so important and yeah, how it really paved the way for the whole tuning scene. If Nissan hadn't released the 300ZX, I don't think that the Japanese tuning scene would be the same as it is today. It's just an incredible car. If you haven't checked out that podcast, it's called Pass Gas Podcast by Donut Media. Go check it out. It's like a 3-episode series and it's really worth listening to. But yeah, number one on my list is the Z32 300ZX for that reason. I think it's responsible for a lot of the car scene today and it doesn't get the credit it deserves. So that is my king of underrated cars. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like and share it with your friends. It's the first video I've ever done like this, so let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed it, I'll potentially do some more similar videos like this, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.